All right, we are live.
We are live.
Chris Clawson, thanks for doing this. Welcome to the Future of Fitness.
You're welcome. It's good to be here in Los Angeles and be here at a trade show that enjoyed. It's like a reunion for me. So I've been here many times and lots of people I know, and it's a fun time for me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we made this happen because obviously you've been a busy man today. Right? We're sitting in the middle of IHRSA, and today is what is today? Thursday of IHRSA, which is probably the busiest day, and you've been doing your job pretty effectively from what I've seen.
I'm trying.
But you recently joined EGYM not too long ago. So maybe that's a good place to start because I want to cover, there's so much I want to cover with you. I want to cover about the EGYM technology. I want to cover IHRSA, kind of your experiences over the years being here. I know you've seen a lot of cyclical things happen throughout the industry over your career. But let's start with maybe what attracted you to EGYM and kind of how that process unfolded of you joining their team, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. So I've known Philip kind of since he came in the industry. Philip's a very gregarious person. First of all, he doesn't have any ego whatsoever. I shouldn't say that. His ego is so it's so controlled, and he comes across as just a nice human being. So my experiences were always him being self-facing, almost self-deprecating, and I was at a very large company when I met him. I was at Life Fitness, which was the largest in the industry, and I came over and spent some time with him, and he was very appreciative of the fact that I took that time. And I said, listen, what you know today isn't what you know tomorrow, and the people that you know on the way up are often the same people you meet on the way down. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I said, I always have time for people because someday they're going to be a partner. Someday they're going to be somebody that I'll work with, or maybe, in this case, I work for them. But I never burn bridges. In fact, I worked at Life Fitness 3 times.
Really?
So 11 years, 6.5 years, and 3 years. So twice as CEO. So if you burn bridges, even within the realm that you operate in, it comes back to hurt you. But when you build bridges, it also gives you lots of opportunities later on. And I always had a nice bridge that I built with Philip. He's a good person.
Yeah. I was joking with Sean earlier, Philip's one of the only CEOs I see at these events who gives me a hug.
Yeah.
And it's genuine, right?
Yeah, he's a hugger. If you're uncomfortable with physical contact, you don't want to be too close to Philip because he's going to figure out a way to hug you.
Yeah.
I think the only person that he doesn't hug are probably people who are on the move. If he can slow them down enough that he can sort of climb up on their back and hug them, he'll do that. But as long as they're stationary, he doesn't have any problem hugging you.
Yeah. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you've been in this industry for a while. You've seen probably a lot of personal success, doing this. I don't think you really have to be working or have to be here at EGYM. Am I wrong?
I do not. I'm a very, very fortunate person. A long time ago, people said, that the greatest situation you can ever be in is work because you want to, not because you have to. And it's interesting because in my career, I actually never felt like I worked because I had to. I always felt I worked because I wanted to. And been in great situations with some really good companies and some really great people. And I always felt like tomorrow was going to always be better than the day before. And somehow in my career, it's been mostly true. I mean, there's been some tough times. I lost my job 3 times in my life. Well, I guess 4 times in my life. I used to play baseball, and I got fired from one baseball team. And then happens. I re-signed with another team, and a season later, I got fired by them. So those were the first 2 times. And then twice I've lost my job as an adult. And in both cases, it was the same company, the same job. So I never fear what it's like to fail because I don't ever think I would. But I will tell you, being in an organization that always anticipates and looks to succeed is so refreshing. And that's really, I will tell you that part of the reason why I came to EGYM is that Philip's team and the people on this organization, they embrace tomorrow. They're so excited about the future, and all they can do is imagine success. And they just do. When they walk down the hall, they have pep in their step. When you're in meetings, they're all talking about the art of the possible. And then when you get with customers and the relationships that they've developed with customers, everybody's excited about where this is headed, and I'm excited to be part of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. I think that's everything you can hope for in your career, right?
Totally.
Get to that point.
And there are so many people that don't have that success, partly because of the way that they approach life. They actually look for the dark cloud. They're always worried about the other, the hat that's about to drop, and that manifests itself in their lives and their careers. But that culture also manifests itself in companies. Sometimes companies have a bunch of people that are fearful about failure. And so they actually try to avoid failure more than they try to embrace success. And that's a tough place to be if you've experienced 180 degrees different. And this is a company that embraces success.
Yeah, awesome. And your role, I think, correct me again if I'm wrong, but it's the general manager of gym technology worldwide. Is that right?
That's correct. So the business that people know is the gym tech business because they've seen the product and maybe they've experienced it. But the business is way more dynamic than that. The digital side of this business with what we call the fitness hub, with the training app, with the branded member app, which looks like the customer's app, and what we're doing around this genius solution that we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about a little bit.
For sure.
And then there's this entire business called WellPass, which is really an employee-based wellness. It's a membership that gives you access to fitness facilities in an area, and all those facilities that raise their hand and say that we're in are open to this case, the member is the employee. And so it's a joint venture, if you will, between employer and employee. And so it gives them access to these amazing fitness facilities, boutiques and studios and health clubs. And that also brings us into the conversation. And so when you look at the entire conversation around EGYM, it's really all three. And sometimes it's just one to start and the other two come in after, and sometimes it's all three of them to begin with. So it's quite dynamic.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, today we're going to get into the technology for sure because I finally got to experience it. Got onboarded. I got to do the game day stuff, and like a lot of it was really interesting to me. And I want to talk about that experience in a minute. But we are sitting at the floor in IHRSA, right? Like we're in the middle of the floor. It's pretty fun doing interviews like this. You've been at IHRSA a couple times over your career.
Yeah.
Maybe it's bring us back to the first time you went to IHRSA and what that was like, and maybe how different it is now.
So my first IHRSA was 30 years ago, and it was in Reno, Nevada. As I always call
Classy
Reno.
place.
I think Reno is probably a better place to live than we have friends that live in Truckee, so they're nearby there, and they love it. It's incredible.
My family lived there.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically on the other side of Lake Tahoe, so it's pretty spectacular from a topography perspective. But Reno itself is it's kind of a blue-collar town at some level. It has, obviously, its white-collar elements. But, 30 years ago, Reno was Reno. It was an old, it was sort of an old, tired from hospitality. The hotels were old. The meeting space that we had, the convention area, was kind of old. But it was an interesting trade show for me because it was my first commercial trade show. I'd been to a lot of consumer fitness trade shows, and they were much grander in scale. So the Super Show, which used to be put on by the Sporting Goods Manufacturers Association, was the first trade show I'd ever gone to, and it was the third largest trade show in the United States. So it was, in scale, probably maybe 30 times larger than this. I mean, it was way beyond this. It was millions of square feet. But it was a different environment because it wasn't customer and supplier. It was retailer and supplier. So the customer was the retailers. We were selling to the retailer. And so it was a different conversation and a different dynamic. Here, you're much closer to where the rubber hits the road because you're selling to, in most cases, you're selling to the person that's going to be using that in their facility to sell memberships.
Right.
And so my experience there, that very first trade show that I went to, was meeting with people who were professional buyers. Their job was to buy fitness equipment.
Okay.
And they didn't buy fitness equipment because they liked fitness equipment. They bought fitness equipment so they could sell health club memberships or beds and heads at a hotel. Or if it was a university rec, it was for their students. But it was a lot of fun. But it was quite different than it is today. It was tech low, product high. People packed their booths almost like it was a shopping mall. And you're like, there's no place to move in here. And why do you have so much equipment? You can't even have conversations. So, it was a lot different then. Yeah.
I mean, and how would you describe it now? I mean, it's tech heavy, right? And I've been to the last 3 or 4, and I've just seen, obviously, 3 years ago it was a little dismal, right, for the industry. It was quiet. It seems to have come back, but what's your kind of overall assertion of how it's doing now?
Yeah, so I always tell people the first day is always good. I've never been, with the exception of post-COVID where it was a little funky.
Yeah.
But the first day is always good. And there's always a lot of traffic and there's always a lot of energy. The question of how well the show goes is really day two. Is what does it look like after noon? When noon hits, is everybody heading to the exits to catch flights out of here, or are they staying till the end of the show? And to me, that's the difference between a good show and a great show. So we'll see. I mean, I'm bullish. We have 195 scheduled meetings in 2 days.
It's crazy.
No, it's been really
I've been
crazy.
sitting in here most of the day,
Yeah.
and it's bananas how many people are coming through.
Yeah.
These are like high-level meetings from what I've seen. So
Yeah,
the
they're
faces
great.
come through, yeah.
They're great meetings. So, that part's good. And we have a really unique place in the industry. So not only do we have meetings with potential customers and clients, but we have vendor partners that we're working with. So over my left shoulder and to my right here, we have vendor partners products. We have partner products from Matrix Fitness and from Life Fitness and from Stairmaster and Star Trek and Precor. And so our conversation isn't just about what we do, it's about who we do it with. And we have 200 partners that we work with. We work with Garmin and Strava, and we work with people who are Apple and others, right? So we're an aggregator. We're also a manufacturer and supplier of equipment. But our story isn't limited to the 19 pieces of, as the Brits would say, kit that we sell. It's the ecosystem that we've created that includes our partners and all of their products.
Well, thank you for that beautiful segue, because that brings me to the next piece of it. I mean, most people listen to that and be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why does EGYM have, all the other types of brands and equipment within their booth and they're, promoting it? That makes zero sense, right? But now I know what I know today and what we've talked about with Genius, and we'll get into that extensively. Like, why does that make sense for EGYM? Why is that a unique case?
Sure. So if you think about why you are or you aren't successful in the industry, there's two layers to the conversation. There's the layer of selling the product to an operator. And the operator could be anything. It could be anything from a hotelier to a health club operator. But you're selling it to somebody who's going to use it, and that's not the business they're in. They don't sell fitness equipment. They're selling training, or they're selling an experience at the hotel or at a university. It's a place to work out and to meet people. But when you recognize that that's just who you're selling the product to, who are they actually selling their product to? And they're selling it to a staff member who has to use it to sell memberships, a general manager at a hotel that needs to put beds in heads, a college that's trying to recruit students and they have a fitness center that they use as a recruiting tool, or it's for athletics and they use it to recruit athletes. And then you also have the athletes themselves, or the person who's working out, or the person who's traveling, the person who works out in the corporate fitness center. Those are ultimately also customers, but they're once or twice removed. And so when you think about what we do, we're actually trying to solve for what's been an obvious pain point that people didn't necessarily know how to articulate. And so when you think of an app, apps are mostly singular devices. They do something, right? Maybe they do some things. But what we're talking about is doing as many things as possible. So if you're somebody who wants functional training and you want it delivered through your app, we can do that. If you want to track your exercise and it's goal-based, we can do that. But with our AI and the 7 billion exercises that we have and the 340 million encounters of onboarding, we have the ability to prescribe exercise based what your goals are, using our biometrics, looking at your flexibility, looking at the information that we have about you as a person, your weight, your height, your body mass index. We have the ability to look at your VO2 max using our partners for VO2 max testing, using what's called RP, which is relative perceived exertion. We can determine what your VO2 max is. We can look at flexibility, and all of those things combined with your strength and your capabilities around strength, we assign a bio age for each one of those. And sometimes that bio age is younger than your chronological age, and sometimes it's the same, and sometimes it's slightly more, but it's all about achievement. And so we bring all of these things to bear. So if you're out running, we can capture that through your Garmin. If you're riding a bike, we can capture that through Strava. If you're working on a piece of strength equipment, we can capture that on selectorized free weights or functional training, or we can do that on the computerized smart strength equipment we have, or we can do cardiovascular exercises that aren't VO2 max, or just exercise. We can capture all that. And so we bring all that to bear. And why do we do that? Is to benefit the operator who's selling memberships or putting beds in heads, the staff that's selling whatever the services that they offer, and ultimately the person who's using that to exercise. And we can do that globally. And so it's the power of AI is about to become exponential because we already have 7 billion exercises. And as we add all of their strength equipment, including all their cardio equipment, and continue to build on our partner member conversation, that 7 billion will become 14 billion in a blink of an eye.
It's, for me, having covered the fitness industry for the last 7 years on this podcast, I talk a lot about technology, right? And I've talked about this kind of like this dream point of like where AI will, to use Gerald Jackson's term, I'll give him credit, contextualize the data.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like it makes it useful to the individual. And I always thought about, I know you guys, from what I understand, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong again, but like wearable data is still being worked into the situation. But I've always imagined this world where like your program changes depending on the data that it's being fed from you personally and specifically, right? So I didn't get enough sleep. I'm overstressed. Something hurts, right? So the program will change automatically.
Yeah.
And I've written thousands of programs for people, and I know it's never really that good because I can't contextualize it. I don't know what's going on in their lives. But is that, to me, that seems like where you guys are going.
At some point that could, the portion around sleep, you can do that with a partner because a partner can track you with a phone. They can track your sleep and the quality of your sleep. And that can become part of the AI, a component of the AI. The parts that we don't track now, and at some point we may, again, we don't track nutrition. Mm-hmm. But we may integrate with somebody who's tracking nutrition because that's a big part of goal setting on multiple levels. One is if your goal is to lose weight, calories in, calories out is a big part of that equation. So you can work out all you want, but if you're consuming more calories than you're burning, you're going to gain weight. It doesn't matter. I mean, it is what it is. But all of those factors are going to be important. But for what we can do right now already, it's pretty important. If you're choosing a goal around strength training and you want to focus on specific parts of your body, or if you have an injury and you can factor that out, we're only going to prescribe what exercises are available in the facility that you belong to. So although we might have 10,000 different pieces loaded in, it's only the 100 pieces that are available in your club that are part of the assortment, but only working them based on what your goals are. So the beauty of the AI is when I do a training protocol for you and a prescription for you, I only know Eric Malzone. I only know you. And I may not know you well enough because I might have 19 other clients I'm working with. So I'm actually trying to piece it all together, and I'm seeing what's working for you and what's not working for you. What we have through the AI is we have, in this case, thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and millions of Eric Malzones. We're going to start to know more and more people who are your age, who have your goals, who have seen your progression and your success. And now we can start to bring that to bear so that when the trainer's trying to build a program for you, he's drawing on all of the Eric Malzones that are out there that are having success. And he's pulling from the things that have been most successful. And in some cases, factoring out things that have been less successful. And he doesn't have to remember all that. That's being created for him. Now he can customize it and he can optimize for a situation. And so can the member. The member can say, I'm actually feeling a little peppier than I thought I was. And I know what this is. I'm going to hit the plus button. I'm actually going to do more resistance. And that's okay too. You have flexibility to customize the workout while you're there.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool. And I got to experience a lot of it today, at least part of the assessment and things like that. Happy to say younger than I am.
Nice.
On just strength. Flexibility, I suck. So I need a lot of work on that. So that aged me a little bit. But, I think people, when they listen to this and maybe who aren't progressively minded in the industry will think, well, this is going to take over the personal trainer's job, right? And I 100% disagree with that. I think, as I was telling you, I've written thousands of programs. It takes a lot of freaking time. It's probably what I did on my Sundays. And I wish if I could get one thing off of my plate, it would be the programming, especially because I can't adjust to it. So, when people are worried about the personal training industry, and when they hear something like this, what do you say to them? What's your messaging for that?
No, I mean, okay, let's say this. Imagine if you were a personal trainer and I took away your smartphone. How successful would you be? So now you don't have your calendar on your phone. You don't have the videos of the exercises that you're going to send to your client or the videos you've taken of your client. You don't have any access to information. You can't go to the cloud. You can't do anything. It's just, you got to remember, it's in a spiral notebook. Your entire career is in a spiral notebook. And you can operate that way. They used to operate that way. But imagine if you had access to all the equipment that's in your facility. It's right there at your fingertips. And if you wanted to customize it, you can choose it. You can say, these are the exercises. Boom, 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 send. And it tells them what pieces. It tells them what their seat adjustments are. It tells them what the tibial adjustment is for a leg extension. It tells them what weight they're supposed to lift. And you hit yes after you're done, and it all gets uploaded to the cloud. And the trainer knows that the exercise that he prescribed to you, 8 of the exercises you did, 2 you didn't do. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's I'll call that an analog becoming digital environment. Now imagine if he has access to all of the Eric Mal zones, and he sees what things have been successful, and he can prescribe from that. And so now, instead of trying to spend all of his time trying to figure out what it is that you should do, he can spend his time trying to figure out how to move you forward, recover from an injury, make you stronger, make you more capable. He's spending more time with you as a person and less time trying to figure out how to prescribe something to you. I think it's an accelerant. And which elements that you want to use out of this AI technology is really kind of up to you. And it's also up to the member, right? So where they can continue to change the dynamic. But when they get to go back and they get to say, when you started with me, you were 42 years old, biological age. In 4 of the categories, you were 50 years old or older. And now you come back 6 weeks later and you've taken 2 or 3 years off that. And 12 weeks after that, you're now below your chronological age. How many people is that person going to tell? You know, my bio age, I'm 42 years old. My bio age for flexibility is 38, but my strength is 29. When I started, my strength was at 50. That's a story. And that trainer can use that story to say, okay, you know what? You're the new Eric Malzone. I have not worked with you. I've worked with Eric Malzones before. I've just onboarded you. I know what your BMI is. I know what your weight is. I know what your goals are. I've worked with 4 different Eric Malzones already, and this is where they started, and this is where I moved them to. That person's going to go, I want to be the next Eric Malzone. I want to be that person that's biological age is something less than my chronological age. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Yeah. You know, and I think there's something to it as well. It's just like scalability of the great trainers. I mean, I've had enough people on this podcast, and I've talked to a lot of great coaches, right? It's been awesome to do that. And I ask a lot of questions like, how much of great coaching and being a trainer is the interpersonal skills, like setting up the environment, right? It's welcoming, the soft skills that we call it, the trust, right?
Yeah.
And I think the smart ones will realize that technology like this provides scalability for great coaching, right? Because now instead of 20 clients, 30 clients, 40 clients, where you're, like I said, program design all weekend and adjusting things in the morning, now you can take that time and work on the soft skills and things that really create the environment that makes people successful. So when you're reminding what you guys have seen so far, am I making that up, or does that tend to be?
No, it's actually, it's quite true. And there actually is opportunities for you to have different clients. Mm-hmm. You can have a client that's high touch environment where you spend time with them and you're with them, and you travel through the journey with them. Every exercise you're with them side by side. Yeah. There's a client that you see every week. There's a client you see every 2 weeks. A client you see every month. A client you see every 90 days. And the beauty of the onboarding is that the onboarding is going to constantly give you an opportunity to go back and revisit where they are. Even if they're working on them by themselves and they're working with a virtual program that you've given them, they can always go back to see where they are and see the progress. They can look at their chart. They can look at their branded member app and go, I started a 150-pound bench press and I'm at 175-pound right now. I used to do 1 set. I can do now 2 sets. They can see their capabilities scale as well. But the real beauty of this is, and this is the truth of the matter, whether I'm going to stereotype trainers, okay? Sure. Trainers become trainers for one primary reason. They really like to train people. Yeah. Sure. That's what they really like to do. You know what most of them hate doing? Selling. If somebody could deliver clients to them 100%. And all they had to do was train, they would be so happy because they would say, I really don't want to have to go out and tell people how I'm a great trainer. I don't want to do that. I just want to be a great trainer. And so and this is going back to the Fitness Hub, the beauty of the Fitness Hub is that if you have a trainer-led onboarding, I just had a relationship with you. I don't have to sell you my wares. You know who I am, and I know who you are, and I know what your goals are. And even though I can set you off and on your way to go on this journey, I can still touch you and say, how's it going? We met 2 weeks ago. How are you doing? Are you finding success? Is there anything I can do to help? So they have a touch point in the beginning. They have a touch point if they want to at anywhere along the conversation or the relationship. And if the client decides to start to work with them, now they have a lot of different touch points, not only in real life, but virtually. And they can do that based on information, not just how are you feeling? Hey, I noticed that you're 3 years younger. You're 6 weeks in, you're 3 years younger on your strength training. How's that feeling? Do you want to accelerate that? I can help.
Yeah, I mean, that's so compelling. And, I think the elephant in the room for EGYM, I mean, obviously in Europe, there's a tremendous amount of success, right? Specifically in Germany, right? The cost, right? This isn't inexpensive equipment.
No.
Right? The hardware is I don't know, what, 2 to 3 times what maybe some of the competitors maybe?
Yeah, I think 3 is probably fair.
Yeah. So, like, let's just nail that one right in the head. Like, what is the price point? How do you guys overcome that? Why is it, so important for gyms to at least consider investing more at this point in time?
So we have a history that goes back, more than a decade. And so we know what attrition looks like for membership. It's way lower with an EGYM. It's substantially lower, and it can be as much as 50% lower depending on the facility. 2 is there are membership striations within clubs where they have memberships that are base and they go up. In some of the club chains that we've had success in, we actually see the conversion from base membership to the higher membership as high as 60%, which is more than double their membership where they don't have EGYM. Okay. So the EGYM expense, if you will, or the investment in EGYM, in some cases pays back in less than 6 months, just with the move from a basic membership up to the higher membership. But the analogy I like to give is, let's talk about smartphones. When smartphones came out, smartphones were 2, 3, and 4 times more expensive, but they created tremendous value. And so do you blink at a $1,000 phone? Could you buy a flip phone for $200 all day long? You can go to Walmart and buy a phone for nothing, right? I mean, you buy a phone for less than $100. Would you ever do that? I mean, if all you want to do is make calls, yeah. But the value that it brings and the story that we have now with open mode and with our ability to have game day, coupled with all the things that we're doing with our vendor partners, it's actually a nominal investment, and it pays itself back pretty quickly.
Yeah, interesting. And when you look at the United States and North American market, I guess we'll extend to, but with your health club and gym operators, like who's the shining example here in the States of people utilizing, leveraging EGYM technology? Really well?
Historically, it's been the YMCAs, okay, for sure, because they were using the circuit product for onboarding, and they have this huge cadre of people who are fans of EGYM, and they never leave. I mean, they're just they love EGYM, and so what they've seen is they've actually now migrated onto the main gym floor, and so now it's on the main gym floor with people who are intermediate. But with our new product, particularly with the open mode, where we have eccentric overload, where we have explonic, so you can do ballistic exercises, where we have adaptive exercises, where now as you start to get to the point where you're struggling with your rep, it'll automatically reduce resistance to get you back into your rep goal and to get to your full range of motion. And then you couple that with the ability to do eccentric overloads and concentric within an isokinetic exercise environment. It does things that no product in history has ever done. And it does it flawlessly. And that can be part of what's programmed, is that today you use the regular mode, tomorrow you're doing eccentric, the next day you're doing explonic, and the day after that you're doing adaptive. You don't get bored. And so it's a completely different conversation in that sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I enjoyed it, and the game day thing was pretty fun, especially in this setting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some beast came in before me and like bench press, like, what was it, like 7,000 pounds on the score. I mean, I was like, oh man, I'm not going after that guy.
He's an animal.
That's absolute savage. Okay, so I want to zone out a little bit and just talk about IHRSA and kind of our last little segment here. But I mean, I've noticed a few things about this trade show as I've had limited time to kind of walk around. I mean, anything to you at this particular show, like, stand out? Any kind of major trend that you're seeing or theme of this one, or anything that really kind of made your eyes pop a little bit?
Well, I wouldn't say pop. What I would say, what's interesting for me here is that, and we talked about it before, where we feature our vendor partners' products. We have it in our advertising. They're talking about us in their booths and sending people over here.
Cool.
So it's pretty unique. And I mean, I've been in the industry a long time here for somebody to send somebody to somebody else's booth. But when we have these conversations and we're talking, we have their product in our booth. So we can talk about theirs in our booth. And in some cases, like at FIBO, the trade show that we have in Germany in April, we'll have a huge presence in a lot of their booths as well, because our partnership is longer. So we're in their booths, and they feature our fitness hub in their booths, and they talk about us as a partner, and that's what's happening here now. So people are bringing customers over and introducing them to EGYM. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, that's nice to see that kind of collaboration across the major brands too. And one thing I've kind of noticed as I've walked around, and it was relevant last year, but this year it's like just straight up in my face. It's just the amount of recovery and wellness science that we have here, like the amount of infrared, the amount of like stuff I've never really seen before. Like, I don't know. I mean, have you tried any of this stuff out?
I have. So it's interesting what you're talking. I would say the two things that have changed in this industry, particularly in the last, I'm calling it 7 years or less. It's not 10 years. One is pre-workout. So it's the warm up, it's flexibility, and is post-workout. It's the next conversation. It's about recovery. So the exercise portion of it, although there's a lot of new modalities with the protocols for exercise, those continue to expand. But what you're seeing is, cryotherapy. You're seeing the plunge tanks, and you're seeing things around red light therapy and all these things. This is all coming into play, and it's coming into play sort of in real time in places you wouldn't expect it to be.
Yeah.
At price points you wouldn't expect to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the price points are, they're high, but they seem to be coming down a little bit.
Yeah, in some cases. But I mean, when I'm saying price points, is I'm saying price points for clubs that are introducing these technologies. They're not expensive clubs. They see it as a benefit for selling their membership. And so some cases, they're high value, low price facilities, and they're looking at adding things that are more amenity-like because they think it's worth it to their members, and their members will say, I want to be a member there, and I can do that for a lower price point, but they have these amenities. This is pretty awesome. Yeah,
it is. And it's just so interesting. I mean, obviously we don't have to talk about connected fitness and how, but 3 years ago, connected fitness was everything at this trade show, right? Now it just seems like it's just full blown health club gyms. Like, it's really cool to see. I mean, it seems like the industry, and you've seen a couple cycles in this industry, right? Do you think we're in the middle of a cycle right now, or towards the end of one? What do you think?
Well, I think the connectivity was all reaction. So there were a lot of extreme valuations for companies.
Oh, man. Yep.
So, if you think of an industry, I'll use an automotive equivalent. So, there's a reason why Toyota and Daimler-Benz and Ford and General Motors and Volkswagen Group didn't go headlong into electric cars, okay? Because they were traditional manufacturers of internal combustion engines. And so if they were to go into a segment of the market where they were going to lose billions of dollars, it would crush their stock price. But they did get into hybrids. And then little by little, they expanded and they offered electric vehicles. But the electric vehicle manufacturers like Tesla were being valued not as an automotive manufacturer, they were a tech play. Our industry had that, where you had people that were developing content and they were being valued as a tech play. And people kept saying, why aren't you going headlong into the content business? It said, because they're losing billions of dollars. And if we did that, we would be crushed in the marketplace because we wouldn't be able to invest in our core business. We would be investing in something that we're going to lose billions of dollars on. So why would we do that? And so I think what you're seeing is the content is still there. The monetization of content, and what I'll call profitable monetization of content, is a very, very small number of people. There aren't many that are out there that are doing that. So I think there's just this cold slap in the face of, do you want to develop content? Okay. Do you want to make money? Maybe you don't want to develop a lot of content and think that's how you're going to make your money. So I think content's important. We have partners that develop content, and we're putting them on our platform.
Cool.
But they're doing it smartly. They're going after the commercial customer, where the investment isn't 1,000 conversations. It's one conversation to get to 1,000 clients. That's a smart play.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I guess I'll sort of wrap this up. It's happy hour here.
Yeah,
So it's important.
everyone's
I
drinking
can
around
smell
this.
I can smell the beer around over my shoulder. So last question for you is, as an industry, in your new role, um, how can we help you? What would you like for people to reach out to you about? And then how would you like them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think I actually would love to see more partners reach out to us, more people who want to integrate. We are an open source API.
Okay.
We don't vet anything. There are people who can integrate with us that can have tremendous products and great experiences, and then we'd have people that maybe are just starting to get into the market and want to have access to conversations with customers. So I think the conversations around people who want to partner with us, we're totally amenable to those conversations. But we also obviously would love to sell our wares to people, and we're a global company. We're headquartered in Munich, Germany, and we have offices here in Denver, Colorado, and we're ready to take on the world.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. I lied. One more.
Okay.
From what I've learned today is like EGYM technology needs to be experienced, right?
I think so.
I think so. So if people want to do that, what do they do? They set a time, come out to Denver, and you have a showroom there. What's the best?
And we also showcase facilities that are regional. So we have great partner relationships with people who are willing to open up their facilities for us to show what we're doing and what they're doing. They get a chance to bang their chest a little bit and say, yeah, we really like EGYM, and let's tell you how we're doing it. It's pretty good partnership for us. So it's sort of a symbiotic relationship.
Awesome. So where do people get a hold of you?
Well, I think the easiest way is, I guess, through my email. It's Christopher, with the CHRISTOPHER .Clawson, CLAWSON @egym.com.
Right on, man. Well, I know it's been a super busy day for you. I really appreciate you carving out the last half hour before happy hour, and hopefully we'll go have a beer right now. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,
Eric.
Christopher Clawson.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.